The lights were bright, the stakes were brutal, and the Atlanta Falcons walked into their final preseason battle against the Dallas Cowboys knowing exactly what was on the line. This wasn't just another game on the calendar. This was survival. For some players, it was the biggest night of their lives. One mistake could end their NFL dream. One highlight could secure them a roster spot that changes their future forever. The deadline for the 53-man roster hung over Flowery Branch like a storm cloud, pressing down on every player who took the field. Head coach Raheem Morris didn't sugarcoat it. He called it what it was, the make-the-roster game. That meant every snap mattered. Every block, every tackle, every catch could be the difference between packing a locker or running out of the tunnel on Sundays in front of thousands of screaming fans. The energy was wild. The Falcons' sideline felt less like a preseason warm-up and more like a playoff fight. For the starters, it was about sharpening the blade. For the bubble players, it was about survival. For some, this night was their Super Bowl, and you could see it on the field. Some players didn't just show up. They fought like their careers depended on it. Because they did. The crowd felt it too. Fans weren't just watching a preseason game. They were witnessing futures being decided in real time. Every big play was met with roars, every mistake with groans, and every sideline huddle had that intensity of men realizing their window of opportunity was about to close. And then came the sparks. The players who refused to let the moment crush them. The guys who made it impossible for coaches to ignore. They turned a high-pressure night into their personal showcase, and suddenly, Falcons Nation had new names to chant, new stories to follow. At the heart of it all was one unlikely star, Nick Nash. The undrafted free agent who no one expected to see on the stage turned heads and lit up the field. Nash wasn't just playing. He was seizing every chance, every rep, with the hunger of someone who knew the odds were stacked against him. But under those Friday night lights, he didn't look like a long shot. He looked like a Falcon. And that's the magic of nights like this, when hope collides with desperation, when raw talent battles fear, and when a few players rise up and demand to be part of the story this team is about to write. The Falcons' preseason has been full of surprises, but nothing stood out more than the electric show put on under the lights against Dallas. One name that had everyone buzzing? Nash. This kid wasn't just catching passes, he was making plays that demanded attention. 6 receptions, 87 yards, and every grab seemed to come at the perfect moment. It wasn't empty numbers. It was a statement, the kind of performance that makes coaches lean forward in their chairs. Nash looked fearless, running sharp routes, fighting for extra yards, and showing the type of grit that makes you think, this guy belongs on Sundays. But here's the tough truth. Atlanta's wide receiver room is stacked, deeper than the Chattahoochee River. You've got guys like Chris Blair and Dylan Drummond also fighting for recognition, each making their own case to crack the 53-man roster. That means for Nash, the battle doesn't end with one highlight reel night. He's in the middle of a war for roster survival. Maybe he sneaks onto the final roster. Maybe he starts as a practice squad gem. Either way, this feels like the beginning of something bigger. Because when you see a young player shine like that, you can't help but believe his story isn't done yet. And then there's D. Alford. For weeks, most fans thought of him as just a slot corner, a reliable nickel defender. But Friday night against Dallas, the Falcons flipped the script. They lined him up outside, and instead of looking out of place, he looked like he'd been doing it his entire life. Alford locked down receivers with a swagger that screamed confidence. This wasn't an experiment. This was a calculated move, cross-training him for when injuries inevitably test the secondary. And his versatility, being able to move from the slot to the boundary, makes him one of the most valuable pieces on this defense. Alford isn't just fighting for a roster spot anymore. He's cementing himself as a lock. And just when you thought the night's storylines were set, another player stormed onto the stage. Last week, it was Nathan Carter turning heads. This week, Elijah Dodson stole the spotlight. Tough runs, bruising carries, and a relentless motor. Dodson racked up 12 carries for 74 yards, averaging over 6 yards a pop. Every time he touched the ball, he looked like he was out to prove a point. Don't forget about me. What we saw against the Cowboys wasn't just a preseason game. It was a reminder of how deep this Falcons roster is becoming, young players stepping up, veterans proving their worth, and coaches unlocking new roles. Nash, Alfred, Dodson. Each one of them turned Friday night into a showcase of grit, versatility, and hunger. And with Tampa Bay waiting in Week 1, these aren't just preseason stories. They're the foundation of the fight ahead. Sometimes preseason is about more than stats on a box score. It's about proving you belong. And nobody embodied that more than Akaika Dotson on Friday night. When the second half rolled around and the game felt like it was slipping into autopilot, Dotson lit a fire. He ran angry. He ran hungry. Every carry looked like it meant the world to him, and by the time the dust settled, Atlanta had piled up 147 rushing yards as a team. Coach Raheem Morris couldn't hide his excitement afterward. He praised Dotson by name, smiling like a man who knows he just found a hidden gem. But here's where things get complicated. The Falcons don't have room for everyone. With Bijan Robinson and Tyler Algier locked in as stars, there's only one running back spot left. And Dodson isn't the only one making noise. Justice Carter turned heads the week before, and even though Carlos Washington Jr. has been slowed by a hamstring injury, he's still very much in the fight. It's a three-man battle with just days left before final cuts, and the pressure couldn't be higher. Dodson has momentum, but in the NFL, momentum can vanish with a single fumble, a single missed assignment. Has he done enough to seize the job, or is this story still unfinished? And while Dodson may have left the field with his stock soaring, not every Falcon walked away unscathed. Younghoe Koo, the heartbeat of Atlanta's special teams, delivered a moment that stung. His missed 51-yard field goal wasn't just 3 points left on the field. It was a reminder of last season's struggles, when injuries and inconsistency crept into his game. Fans love him. They trust him. He's earned that ice-cold reputation. But even legends need to prove they're still sharp. With matchups against Tampa Bay and other heavy hitters looming, Atlanta can't afford doubt in the kicking game. The city needs Koo to silence the whispers and bring back the clutch magic. And then there's the tough news. Jamal Agnew's roster hopes might already be slipping away. Brought in to replace injured return man Avery Williams, Agnew was supposed to bring speed and experience to special teams. Instead, an oblique injury has kept him mostly on the sidelines, leaving his future cloudy. In a league this competitive, being unavailable often feels like being invisible. The Falcons are discovering who's ready for the fight and who's fading under the spotlight. Every carry, every kick, every snap is rewriting futures in real time. Some men are seizing the moment. Others are watching it slip through their fingers. The Falcons are staring down some tough choices, and the clock is ticking. On one hand, players like Ray McLeod, D. Alford, Mike Hughes, and even Nathan Brooks are proving they can handle return duties with flair. That makes life complicated for Jamal Agnew. He's electric with the ball, no doubt, but when the roster's already stacked at wide receiver, can the Falcons afford to carry a guy who might be one-dimensional? Without real game tape as a receiver in Atlanta, Agnew feels more like a gamble than a guarantee. But that's not the only storm brewing. The real nightmare for Falcons fans right now is at offensive tackle. Caleb McGarry is out long-term, Storm Norton is recovering from ankle surgery, and suddenly, Atlanta's depth at tackle is paper-thin. Elijah Wilkinson has stepped into McGarry's role, but the Falcons are playing cautious with his reps. That left Jack Nelson and Brandon Parker to step up in preseason action, and while they were serviceable, just fine won't hold against Tampa Bay's pass rush in Week 1. Raheem Morris is holding his cards close, but it's clear he's weighing two choices. Ride it out with what he's got, or make a bold move through a trade or waiver pickup. Either way, this is a crisis that demands answers, fast, and the cuts have already begun. Atlanta just dropped 12 players, including some surprising names. The biggest shocker? Morgan Fox, a veteran defensive lineman with over 100 games of experience, gone after just 4 preseason tackles. Add in Elijah Dotson, Ben DiNucci, Lamar Jackson, and Quincy Skinner Jr., and you can feel how ruthless this process is. With 24 more cuts looming before Tuesday's deadline, no one's safe. Every rep matters. Every mistake could be the last. This is the reality of football: brutal, unforgiving, but thrilling. The 53-man roster is being carved out in real time, and with Tampa Bay waiting in Week 1, the Falcons have no margin for error. Who survives? Who shocks the world and earns a spot? And will Atlanta's front office swing for the fences at tackle, or hold steady and hope the current roster holds up? One thing's certain: the next few days are going to define this team's season. Falcons Nation, buckle up. The fireworks are just beginning.